On PM Express tonight, Ghana's most wanted finally nabbed. However, are we nearing closure on the Menzgold saga? It's a big question. There's a whole cacophony of issues that needs to be examined here, really. That makes this very complicated. Yes, he's been arrested, but we are far off from bringing him to justice. Why? Let's look at what has happened since this story broke last week about government's warrant for his arrest. Nabbed Menses, we know, was arrested in Dubai on December 7th. This is information we didn't know until this morning. And first it was published in the media. The Graphic did publish this about the details of this. Well, they put the date of his arrest on the 4th of December. Then the government, the police issued a statement late in the afternoon saying, well, they've had confirmation that his arrest was indeed on the 7th of December. We also know from the police statement again that the arrest is in relation to, as I said, quote, a gold trading deal gone bad within the Emirati jurisdiction. So it had nothing to do with the arrest warrant that has been issued for him through Interpol, also here in Ghana, in almost 200 countries across the globe. It has something to do, rather, with a deal that he'd done in the United Arab Emirates, and that's why he's been picked up. And we also got this information today that Ghana only was informed about this, of his arrest, on January 13th. This is 3 days or so after we put out the arrest warrant. That on the 9th, that's when we did it. And 3 days later, we got information from the authorities in Dubai, informing our country and our authorities that the man you put on the wanted list, the red alert, as far as Interpol is concerned, already is in our custody. That's when we got informed, a whole month after his arrest. Now, Ghanaian officials in Dubai, we know, have visited Nam1 in custody. We understand that our consulate there had done the visit. This must have happened after the 13th when we were informed that he was in custody. We also know tonight that a high-powered delegation has now been dispatched by government to Dubai to begin the extradition processes. And this delegation includes the Deputy Attorney General. It also includes a rep from the BNI, a rep from IOCO, and the police. 4 individuals going, and it's going to be led by the Deputy Attorney General, who spoke to us tonight, confirming that the delegation is just hours away from flying over to Dubai to begin the processes of getting him extradited. However, though, there is a big challenge that they will face, and he admits that Ghana has no extradition treaty with the United Arab Emirates. We don't. And he says that's going to be one of the biggest hurdles. So what are they going to do? He says they're going to use diplomatic channels to try and get him released into our custody. But there's a big hurdle. That is if the United Arab Emirates, the Emirati government, decides to file formal charges against him and prosecute him in Dubai, then there's no chance that he's going to come to Ghana anytime soon, because that process has to be finished. And so they have a huge task in trying to convince the Emirati government to let him go or leave him into our custody. Ghana, however, is therefore exploring the diplomatic channels to get it solved. Government says it is determined, regardless of the challenges that it's going to face in trying to get him into a custody, essentially to bring him to justice. They are determined that no effort will be spared to get Nabbed Menses back into the jurisdiction so he faces justice here. Remember, there are thousands of customers, thousands of them, who, as we know, have monies locked up in Menzgold. We have been told about $200 million. That hasn't been confirmed yet. That is the subject of some controversy, but fairly huge sums of money involved. You need him here so you can prosecute him. But also, most importantly, if you're going to sell off his assets, he's a man who has some names on the title. But even if he's rented it, you need him to clear all this up. That's why you need him here. The minority is demanding a bipartisan probe into this, a high-powered, serious probe into this, not just one that will wash things under the carpet. Fundamentally, is justice for the thousands of customers now within reach? I have a crack panel tonight that will be dissecting this matter. It's a very complex one. There's a legal angle to this. There's a security angle to this. There is a diplomatic angle to this. And we have a panel that represents all these complexities that hopefully by the time we end, we'll get a detailed understanding of what it would take to get Nana Mensah back into the jurisdiction so he can face justice. Stay with us here on PM Express. My guest in the studio tonight, Justice Sermsai. He is law lecturer at GIMPA, joins us in the studio. As I said, the legal angles to this that we need to explore. We also have a security angle to this, both internationally and locally, that we need to explore. So, and that's why the Chief Executive Officer of the Security Warehouse Limited, an expert in this area, Adam Bona, joins us in the studio. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Also joining us is a man who has traveled the world in his capacity as the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee. He has an article out on this and has some perspective on this to share. Samuel Kudito Ablakwa also speaks for the Minority and Foreign Affairs issues and joins us in the studio as well. Mr. Ablakwa, I'm grateful that you joined us.
Thank you, Evans.
I want to start with the legal questions because I guess that's where the complications begin. Are you surprised, Sermsai, that the Deputy Attorney General is the one leading the delegation to the UAE? And he says to us tonight on my show on radio that he himself admits that one of the biggest hurdles they're going to have to face is the fact that we don't have a extradition treaty with them. However, they are hoping to use diplomatic channels. But he also admits that even there, it depends on how the Emiratis decide to approach this. If they want to file charges against him, then our luck is very much non-existent. What's your own reading of that?
He's very much, right. I think when it comes to issues of interstate relations, what matters most is diplomacy. The legal issues are often, lowered so that diplomatic, discussions will proceed. So it is in the right direction to use the diplomatic approach. What matters here now is for us to look at the legal regime that they already have in place. So because in as much as diplomacy, ranks high, you can't go below certain legal standards as well. So then it makes the law also very important for us to look at. So even as he takes, he embarks on a journey leading a team, I think he would be more on diplomacy than the law. So for example, even in their own law, the Emirati law, their law 39, it gives priority to issues of reciprocity, which is a very key principle in diplomacy, and Honorable Ablakwa would attest to that. It's a very key principle, which means that whatever relation we are, however you expect us to deal with you, we also expect that when similar things happen, you deal with us in the same terms. And if you have records of not honoring your diplomatic obligations or international law obligations, it takes a lot away from the reciprocity principle. So in short, I think the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General would have a lot of work to do in terms of diplomacy. And that is because the gentleman, as we understand, let me say the requested person in this case, as we understand, is already facing criminal charges, is facing criminal procedures there in UAE.
And you know what surprised me? If he's been there since December 7th, I wonder what the UAE law is, because I know locally, nobody can be held for more than 48 hours without. So if he's been there for that long, it presumes that there's something more substantive.
Precisely.
Right?
Precisely. The space we have, the period of time that he's been there and has been detained, as we have it, we don't know whether it's been a series of detention and release, or we don't know whether it's one-off detention. But whatever it is, the fact that from December 7th to now he's still working out his bail conditions also means that then it's a serious matter. And being a serious matter, that is where the challenge for the Deputy Attorney General is. If it's a serious matter as we think it is, then it will be very difficult for you, almost impossible, because their law says that one of the reasons why they may not allow someone to be extradited to another country is when he's facing criminal trial within UAE.
Okay.
So And that, I don't think, will be negotiable. There is a leeway, which is that you can find a leeway in that, which is that you may enter into an undertaking with them, that they will allow you to take him, and when you finish dealing with him, you bring him back. I mean, who does that? Yeah, so in theory, that is possible, but in practice, it's challenging to say that someone who is being pursued for this amount of money in UAE will be allowed to go to Ghana and then solve Ghanaian problem and suspend UAE citizens' problem, and then when you are through with him, you bring him back. It's a tall order. And if you look at the offense that he's been, going to be charged with, it's between 10 to 25 years. I don't know if UAE will allow him to come to Ghana. If he's found guilty, he will serve 10 to 25 years before, So it is a very difficult thing. It's a very serious challenge for the team heading to Dubai. Tonight.
What's your take on this, Mr. Ablakwa?
I agree that it's a very tricky situation. I mean, within the diplomatic arena, we began very well with our relations in 2017 when we upgraded. We used to just have a consular presence. We didn't have a full mission in UAE. So we had a consular general who resided in Dubai. But President Akufo-Addo upgraded our relations. And so we now have a full mission. Ambassador Ahmed Ramadan, the father of the second lady, is our first ambassador in that country. So we began the Akufo-Addo tenure on a high, on the positive, so far as our relations with UAE is concerned. And I choose my words carefully. I say we began, because I do know, and I did put out an article last year, the royal family was not really impressed with how we treated them when they decided to outdoor their new Emirates Airbus for the Terminal 3 launch, the direct flight to UAE. And I do know that within UAE diplomatic circles, there was some murmuring. It did not go down well with them. The last minute cancellation. They were looking for a grand event. Their sheikhs, decided to come to the launch. It was a high-level delegation, only for the Ghanaian government to pull the carpet from underneath them. So I'm not too sure how our relations is still playing out. There were a few simmering matters to do with how they were treating Ghanaian migrants, especially domestic workers, which we have been following. Parliament has made strong representation, but that has been an entire Gulf region matter. And so I do not expect them to take that particular issue too direct. But I'm hoping that the elevation of our relations, elevating from a consulate to a full mission,
might count for something.
Will count for something. And that's why I'm not too happy that in all the communication so far, we have not seen the role of His Excellency Ambassador Ahmed Ramadan in the scheme of things. I would have expected that he should even have had information since December 7. And this delegation and all of
the
that.
Information we have, because if you read two things. So in the police statement, our officials there had visited him in cells. So I'm guessing that he might be.
But it does appear that only after December 13th.
True.
Only after January 13th. January 13th. So very recent.
And also the deputy AG confirms to us tonight that they are working through the foreign affairs and our mission. I think he mentions we have a consulate in Dubai, but we also have an embassy, right?
Yeah.
For the whole UAE. So both all these agencies are coming to work on this. So I guess maybe.
Yes, I mean they would have to be involved, but it is quite worrying that since December 7, there was no hint. Normally, when relations are very good, very strong, even when the national has not demanded for consular assistance, which is the right of every global citizen, especially where diplomatic relations exist, even in instances where because that's the ideal situation where the suspect or whoever is arrested can demand, and it's your right. You can demand by, UN conventions and all of that, demand that you need consular assistance, and it must be granted you. But even in instances where that has not been requested, you expect that countries that have friendly relations, very good relations, will inform the authorities. And in this case, Ambassador Ramadan's office should have been informed. We do not know if they were informed and probably they didn't take action. But if you read the police statement carefully, they say that it was not until the 13th of January
that we were informed.
And that does not really bode well. And I just want to hope that it's not a sign that our relations are not that strong as it should be, because I recall that as recent as was it 2014, 2015, when we were in power, because of our relations with the Rwandese, we handed over a suspect who had come into our territory, and it was done very, very quickly. And that always happens. There have been instances with the British. Shrimsa was involved in a case recently where you contact the British High Commission here.
The ex-government.
Yes. Yeah. So that's really the practice. That's the that's the norm. So it's quite surprising that since December 7th, more than a month, it had to take the 13th after all of the whole Interpol, trigger and all the furore for them to now contact us.
And the thing, though, and I want to come to you, Mr. Bonner, on this.
A good sign.
The thing about what he just said is also that until this story was broke in the media this morning, Graphic particularly had details. I mean, details of the date he was arrested, etc. Until this morning, government had not said anything about his presence in Dubai. And so it's curious, isn't it, that the whole of last week, this dominated the press. Friday, Saturday, until Monday when the press broke the story about his arrest in Dubai. And then we get to know from government that apparently Saturday, the 13th, we had visited him. It raises all these questions about what was happening. I mean, to our security agencies, our intelligence networks, especially when the guy is your most wanted person, really. What's your own reading of this?
I think there's something we probably would have to check. In situations like this, usually when it is reported, they would cite the person as saying a Ghanaian national by name so and so, traveling on passport number so and so, has been arrested so and so and so. All those things were missing in the police release.
Okay.
And so what I'm suspecting could be, is he using another passport?
Okay. With a different name?
No, not with a different name, with the same name.
Okay. I mean a different passport, that's in a different country's passport?
Exactly.
Okay.
That could be the only reason why consulate or mission in the UAE or Dubai would not have been informed.
Okay.
Because for me, usually, because my passport, if I'm not in, once I leave this country, you probably would identify me by the passport I'm holding.
True.
And so how was the identification done? To me, these are questions I would want to ask, because it is curious to know if he was arrested indeed on the 4th or on the 7th. Usually, I mean, Honorable, Kujuta Ablakwa did allude to, I mean, if usually when you commit a crime, we know people who committed crimes, unless usually these are people who fear deportation, then they would tell you, I won't declare, I'm almost stateless.
Okay.
Then I'm almost stateless because they don't want to be repatriated back to Africa or back to, a particular country. But this guy is not stateless. He's coming from Ghana, and he's arrested on a particular date, and it takes our consulate or the mission
more than a month.
More than a month, about a month and a half to be notified. For me, I find that very curious, and so the only reason I mean, let's wait for the Deputy Attorney General and the rest to go there. This issue probably would turn up to be something else.
Yeah.
You could go there and only be told that apparently the guy is not a Ghanaian.
True.
You go there and he's holding another passport. The person you want is Nana Appiah Mensah. He's committed a crime in Ghana, which if we had a treaty with the Emirates, he would have been extradited here, be he Ghanaian or probably not Ghanaian. Yeah. But here we are. If we get there and the guy is not a Ghanaian by, ID, what locals, what law? I mean, I'm
suggesting this.
I mean, yes. What law are you going to use to then say that bring him to Ghana? And let's not also forget, this is a crime that if he has to come to Ghana, we are told that the scam or whatever he was involved in is about almost $60 million.
Yes.
And it is not against the Emirati government. It's against a private entity. Is that correct? And that private entity...
The reason why the Emirati government arrested him.
Arrested him. An organization reported it.
Yes.
And so it moves out of the realm of the Emirati government to do with a private entity. And so if Ghana goes there and you want to plead that let's bring him back, then you should have a big fat check to sign 60 million.
Pay the private company off.
Pay the private company off.
But they have to investigate that.
No, what I'm trying to say is that you pay the private company 60 million first. Then the crime that is committed against the Emirati states, you can then sit and on diplomatic circles, you want to say, you know what, we are friends. Can you give him to us or he comes to face our own law? I mean, I'm just...
There's a whole area
it's a whole... so we need to be very careful with whatever
I know you have something to say.
Yeah, in respect of the issue of on what basis are we going to bring him to Ghana if we found out that
he had traveled
on a different passport. I think that would not be much of an issue if we are able to show that he was in Ghana, he committed a crime against Ghana, because I think that is the key thing. Yeah. Okay. His nationality may not play much role about his coming here. The only reason why we are going for him is that he has committed a crime in Ghana, and we show evidence of, or the evidence we've gathered to point to him that he has committed a crime. Now, another thing that may prevent him from coming to Ghana, he has a lot of defenses. So this is how the proceedings happen. After he's been apprehended and he's already in custody, he would have to be arraigned before the Court of Appeal. So they have High Court, Court of Appeal, and then Supreme Court. But matters of extradition is scaled up to Court of Appeal. Yeah.
So you can go to the Supreme Court.
Yes. So and he has actually 45 days after even the Court of Appeal has determined that he has to, he has to go back to Ghana. He has up to 30 days to appeal to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court may take further days to determine the matter. And even after the Supreme Court has determined the matter, the Minister of Foreign Affairs or Minister for Justice would have to finally sign him off. So the matter is not even the extradition order by the Supreme Court is not executable until the Minister for Justice has signed. So these are all steps that may prevent him. One of the defenses he may have is that he's an Emirati. He's a citizen of United Arab Emirates. If he's able to show that, then we just have to pack bag and baggage.
How can he show that?
If he has it, the lady who dealt in cocaine.
This footballer.
Yes, what's the name? This lady who slipped through her hands.
Oh, yeah.
When she served her term in office, she didn't come to Ghana.
No, true.
If she was holding a Ghanaian passport, she would have been repatriated back to Ghana. But then they asked her, which country do you want to go to?
They sent her to another country.
And they sent her to another country, and so.
And you remember the Chelsea owner.
Abramovich.
At the end of the day, he became a Russian, what do we call it, Israeli citizen, which allowed him to stay in UK, even though as a visitor for some 16
because
years.
there was a rule against the Russian to come in, and then he went on his Israeli passport.
Yeah, so these are all possibilities. And one thing that is we probably may have to consider is that they will also not, send someone back to a country where they believe that the person may be tortured, be given inhumane treatment, or ridiculed in public.
Or be set free.
So if he's able to show that, look, when I come to Ghana, you take me to Anisawam where there's no, these days, the standard for torture is not just when you apply some electric shock to the person, even the jail conditions, the prison conditions. If he's able to show to some standard that, look, where I'm going is like hell for me and I'm going to suffer, these are all defenses that he may have to not, be sent to Ghana. So when you look at all this, you realize that, honestly, we need to reduce the expectation. We need to reduce the expectation and face the reality. But what I even worry about most is, why are we assuming that by the only way we can solve the problem, the problem is money problem. Why are we assuming that the only way we can solve the problem, or the best way we can solve the problem, is to bring him, to get him? I mean, we know from white-collar crime, it's not like you are taming some felon. It's someone who is not harmful to anybody physically. It's the money we want. So if you bring him and we still don't have the money, the guys on the street are not going to sleep.
No.
And the chaos we are experiencing, which is looming, will still be there. So
your point is that his businesses are still functioning right now.
Yes, some of them are functioning.
Some of them are functioning.
Yes. So my point is, why won't you put more effort at retrieving whatever is left, and even possible tracing what we can trace, than
spending the effort in trying to repatriate him.
One human, because if the Deputy Attorney General, can lead a delegation to Dubai just to bring him, why can't we do the same thing? What we have the Attorney General, we have the Registrar General, we have Bank of Ghana, we have Lands Commission, we have SEC, and all these institutions are capable of tracking his assets. So if we are not forming a committee, or some investigative body, some interim ad hoc, body of persons who pay attention to these assets and get them, and we have enough time, and under these difficult circumstances, look at what we are saying here. The success of this journey is not So why are we forming a special team to pursue the human being when we have assets in Ghana and also the capacity to trace some of the assets even if they were outside?
Because fundamentally, the people he allegedly do, all they want, it's not the money.
They want their money.
They want their money.
They want their money.
So,
but Mr. Kuj, just your point on this.
Yeah, I was going to add that at the end of the day, the Emiratis also reserve the right to look at the conduct on the other side, the other sovereign, and in this case, Ghana. How have they acted in this matter so far?
How did he slip?
How did we allow him to slip, to get away? What has been our genuineness, our level of commitment in arresting him and addressing the issues? They will look at all of these matters. As we speak, assets have not been confiscated. We have not even tracked his assets. We have not identified his bank accounts across the world. Some of his businesses are still functioning. What really is our commitment? And remember that in the Jamal Khashoggi case, the Turkish authorities used that to say that, look, we are not going to extradite these Saudis back to your country because we don't see any genuine commitment. We don't have faith that you would really, especially as we even have reasonable suspicion that this whole thing is state masterminded. It happened in the Saudi embassy in Istanbul. So we can't trust you in this matter. So all of these things will play out. And it's important for our government to start carrying out some of these actions, which will
but
show...
But they issued an arrest warrant. It's not a commitment enough and triggered Interpol.
And
if there was no commitment, they wouldn't have done that.
After he had bolted,
What does it take to trigger Interpol? I mean, it's just an electronic message, and it's triggered. It's not as if... And let's add, there's even evidence that, like what Honorable Ablakwa was saying, there's evidence that government has made public statement that, look, this is entirely contractual matter. It is not a public issue. Government is always responsible. So if it should show that, look, what they are doing here, they know very well that it is not their job. It is a civil matter. Private persons should sue me. So what they are even doing here is not in any good faith. What would the government say? Because we saw the statement which says that, look, what is happening here is entirely contractual matter between individuals
should go
and
to
him
court.
to go to court and retrieve the money. And this is not government. The government is not responsible.
The criminal aspect of this, which
yes,
is
but how serious is that? It's an afterthought. If it was criminal from the one, why do you say it's a contractual issue?
But just to quote the CID boss when we spoke to her last week, she said the reason why they didn't come to that in the initial phase was that they were investigating, and that it was only when they got concrete evidence, something to go on. That's a prima facie case. Then they decided to go and file the warrant and then move to trigger the Interpol. That's the only reason why they did that.
You know, that statement was premature.
No, the truth is that, according to sources, SEC, the Exchange and Securities Commission, had investigated, done a thorough job on.
As of August.
You know, had
as
done
of August
a thorough job.
2018.
But because they couldn't prosecute
they
him,
sent it to Iyoko.
They sent it to Iyoko. And I think one of the charges had to do with money laundering. And money laundering is just not a Ghana law. It is an international law. You know, and so money laundering alone was hefty enough to, you know, get Iyoko to ensure that this guy was not given a self-recognizance bail. But what did we see? He was given a self-recognizance bail. He was asked to report himself, I think, every week.
And the Deputy Attorney General confirmed that.
Exactly. He was asked to do that, and he jumped bail. He didn't appear 3 times.
But why? He isn't entitled to a self-recognizance bail?
No, he's not entitled to.
Why?
The moment you've cited him for money laundering, probably Honorable Okujo Ablakwa.
We have the lawyer here.
No,
is that what it is?
I'll tell you what. You see, as for self-recognizance bail, probably I would not be eligible, but he would be eligible because, first of all, he represents a constituency. I mean, and so if, for instance, the two of us committed a similar crime, chances are that he would be given a self-recognizance bail, and I would have to understand that, you see, I'm on my own, and I'll need Evans to come and, you know, post bond or do other things for me. And so this is somebody who is alleged by another state institution to have committed a heinous crime or dangerous crime such as money laundering. And you know what money laundering could do. You know, people who launder money, most of them are into terrorism, most of them are into drugs, most of them are into arms trade and whatever. And it's the reason why the Iyoko should have ensured that this man at least brought in some sureties, some probably call Honorable to come, somebody who cannot run away, to make sure that you vouch for this man's character and say he wouldn't go. But he was given self-recognizance bail. When the Deputy Attorney General spoke, I was expecting you to have asked him that Iyoko reports to the Attorney General. Before they did that, did they sought the permission of the Attorney General or the Deputy? They didn't do that, and they did it. And so mine is that now we have an embarrassing situation where the man slipped through his left. I know from sources that he was on the stop list. And so he didn't even go
Explain that stop list.
Yes. And so, I mean, as you alluded to...
You're stopped at the airport.
At airport. So
at the airport,
if you see him at the airport...
It's not his flight rates. Don't allow him to go.
Don't allow him.
And he had his lease jet sitting on the tarmac which they were paying. And so he left, the lease jet left. And that didn't still trigger anything to Kumasi demonstration.
But what you're saying is very serious. That if there was that, I should put it simply, so this was, he was on alert. He was a man,
when he
if you see him at the airport, stop him.
When he failed to report 3 times, then they said this man is likely to go. But I did hear Honorable on your network when he spoke, I think before I spoke. Why didn't you retrieve his passport?
Because I can tell you
Why didn't you retrieve his
you that
passport?
all former government officials who have been appearing before you, the first thing they do is to collect their passport.
The deputy did not answer that question.
Even today, as we speak, there are probably some former appointees of government who probably are going through investigations, and because they don't want to politicize it, you quietly go there and they say, bring your passport. You leave it with them, and you know maybe you haven't committed
a crime, so you leave it. Jet, he can fly anywhere with that
passport. The point is that
not without a passport. No. Not without a passport.
Because you need to. No, listen. Before you go into another country's airspace, you need to, after September 11th, a lot of
remember that you go through
happen.
processing before you enter your jet. You can't just
And apart from
move
that,
straight to
even
the
if you are
without
entering the
going through
Togolese
immigration.
airspace, you need to declare if it's a cargo.
Yeah.
Are you carrying explosive? Are you carrying human beings?
Going on the assumption that he had carried a different country's passport.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that
He had only to bribe
at the moment
and
we
he gets in the plane.
are here because the man is gone.
That is the more reason why he shouldn't be given this kind of freedom in the first. Look,
because it's a
this
flight
matter
risk.
was a serious matter way back in August last year.
True.
If you and I did something small, trust me, I've accompanied a number of people to DNI, Yoko, and all this, and they won't let you have this freedom. So we don't even need to.
Once you go in, they close the gates.
We don't even need to.
Unless you are so powerful.
Argument over how much freedom, undeserved freedom, the gentleman has had. And so the question is, where were all these delegation people who are going to EAU? What were we doing? Yeah. You know, what were we doing to make sure that this doesn't happen?
And you know the funny thing? You know the funny thing?
It's about the posture. You see, initially when this matter came up, the posture of these state agencies, and later on blessed by the government through the information minister, is that, look, you guys are disturbing everyone. This is a private matter. We don't see anything wrong. It's not even our duty. We've not licensed him, so we warned you to take care of it.
But that was stating a fact. You did warn them.
Yeah, you warned them. But is that your job? Are you an advisor or you are an enforcement agency? So the warning issue.
Let government.
So it's the posture,
public
duty, a regulation. You have a mandate to make sure that this doesn't happen in the first place. You allowed it to happen, and then the defense is that because you have not licensed them, then we are not responsible. But the question is, do you regulate to license, or you license before you regulate? The point is that license is just one step within the regulatory framework. That is why when you are driving and you don't have a driver license, what do they tell you that, well, because you don't have a license, we don't have anything to do with, so you keep driving. They arrest you because the failure to obtain license for driving.
It's an offense.
So you are regulating the activity, not the person or the license. So if you are driving and you don't have a license, they go after you, and that itself is a punishment. It's the same thing. If you are conducting business in the financial sector, you are taking deposits, and you do not have license to do that, it's an offense in itself, and it's punishable, and they must stop you and take a court, even whilst they are waiting for court order to stop you. They must suspend whatever you are doing.
Which is what they did, the SEC did. I guess you came too late. Let me bring you honorable on this. So what we are, for all that you guys have said, this is very complex. And there's no confidence that this team that has left can bring him back, which is what people are asking for, and of course get the monies paid. So where do we go from here, really?
Where we go from here is the reason I have called for a bipartisan parliamentary inquiry, a serious one, not the farcical ones we've had in the recent past, where you end up with a majority report and a minority report. I have been at the center of all the recent bipartisan parliamentary inquiries, and I think that extreme partisanship was allowed to trounce truth and conscience. This is a serious matter, and that's why I'm totally disgusted about all these NDC lists, MPP lists in circulation. NDC bigwigs who have money there, and my name is on that list.
Your name is on the list?
I do not even know where they are.
You have money at Menzgold?
I don't even know what the process is.
Every serious-minded person who knows it's not true. Someone is just...
you know, these are the things that we do in this country, and this is a serious matter.
I'm sure individuals generated that.
You see, people's life savings. Look, the impact on our economy is yet to be known. We are hearing all kinds of figures. I heard their lawyer...
200 million.
That's $1 billion Ghana cedis.
Yeah, Amanda Clinton say that she estimates 1.8 million people.
Yeah.
And as members of parliament, we are representatives of the people.
Yeah.
These are our constituents. We cannot just join the chorus of, oh, it's greed and it's naivety. We are not allowed to join that chorus. We must be seen taking action.
That would be a populist stand.
Every serious country, by now, a serious parliamentary inquiry is taking place. Look at the issues to do with privacy. Recently, with Facebook users in Europe, the House of Commons took action. Cambridge Analytica had to close shop. Just privacy.
You are indicting the institution you are a leader of.
Congress. 2008, the financial meltdown, the subprime crisis, a serious congressional committee sat. They came up with laws to prevent this, because you see, it's also about forestalling this so that there will be no future recurrence.
But you are a leader on your committee. That
is why I've started the advocacy. And yesterday I met with leadership on our side, and they agree that Parliament must take action. Unfortunately, the House is on recess, and so
it can be recalled.
And so it's either you are taking signatures for a recall, but in the last ruling of the Speaker, he says that we should use it.
Is this big enough to
use it? We should use it sparingly. It is.
Is this big enough to
it is. It is, because look, there are national security implications to this. You have Article 83 of our Constitution, the National Security Council. There shall be a National Security Council which shall consist of the President, the Vice President, the ministers for the time being holding the portfolios of Foreign Affairs, Defense, Interior, and Finance, and such other ministers as the President may determine, the Chief of Defense Staff and 2 other members of the Armed Forces, the Inspector General of Police, and 2 other members of the police. If you read Article 84, which spells out the functions of the National Security Council, these are all matters that should engage the National Security Council. We have not heard from them. The President chairs the Security Council. If you look at the Act which operationalizes this, the Securities and Intelligence Agencies Act, I have been raising this matter in Parliament consistently. You know that the Minister responsible for security, Section 17, must make a report to Parliament. Section 17 reads, the President shall assign ministerial responsibility for the intelligence agencies to such minister as the President shall consider appropriate. 2, the minister assigned responsibility under subsection 1 of this section shall, in respect of each year, submit a report to Parliament on the intelligence agencies. This has never happened. It's not been happening. And he's a security expert. He'll confirm that to you.
But your government didn't do it.
Yes, and I've been raising it consistently in Parliament. If you check the official reports, for the records, and all have sinned. But how long can we continue sending? Because if we were getting these reports, the intelligence community will sit up. You won't allow such slips and get away with it. Look at how even the CIA bosses, FBI bosses are grilled in Parliament. Open hearing.
There's too much partisanship here.
Too much partisanship. We always, and you don't know what you are protecting. What partisan interest will you be protecting in this matter? That we all cannot agree and say, like, for once, let's put Ghana's interests first. Our financial sector should concern us. The life savings of Ghanaians, our constituents, that have been jeopardized and is out there in smoke. And look, people are dying when you watch them. Some are threatening suicide and all of that. We must be concerned. It's a national security issue. And you think you can just issue a statement and say, oh, it's a civil matter, you don't have a contract with government. Who told you that? We are wrong. I mean, all of us as leaders, if we don't think that this matter requires our urgent attention, then we have no business being in leadership. We have absolutely no business. And people think that when you raise this matter, it's because you are angling for compensation. You want the people to, I mean, yes, I will argue that they are entitled to it, but that's not really the crux of my submission. Or my main concern is, look, lessons must be learned. How did this guy beat the system? First of all, what was even his business model? Are we sure it's a Ponzi scheme? I'm not that convinced yet that it's really a Ponzi scheme. I'm not that convinced. What is his business model? We need to understand it. Now, is there a lacuna in our law that should make it clear for such business models in the future to be properly regulated? Then we can learn lessons. Then how, if it is confirmed that it's a Ponzi scheme, how did we allow him to operate all these years? How is it that even after the Bank of Ghana and the Security and Exchange Commission had issued warnings, public officials were seen hobnobbing with him all over? He had this #1 mission. He went around the country. We saw the tourism minister, your colleagues followed him. It was all over the place.
Proven guilty.
How was he cleared at the highest office to have a photo op with the president?
But that was way before all these problems started.
But it was very recent.
Like he went
we
with
are told
GFA.
some GFA cabinet. Yes. But delegation members are scrutinized. It was after. Remember that since August 2016, the Bank of Ghana had been warning So the president, who is chairman of the National Security Council, is not aware of these warnings and allowed him. You see, so these are serious matters. They are grave. And there ought to be a national inquiry of a sort so that we can learn from our mistakes. If people have to be queried, sanctioned, penalized for allowing this to happen, these are people's lives at stake. Action is taken. And then we learn lessons. If we must have new laws or new enforcement regimes, then we roll that out so that the future can be safeguarded.
And when we return from the short break, we'll be delving into the central question for the customers, really. As we talk about all this difficulty, the complexities of what it will take to bring the man back home. And I think one of my guests really touched on this, Sremsai. Fundamentally, people want their monies back. So what are the ways in which government can do that without necessarily, I guess, dragging this further? We'll explore that. And Quick Tobacco has suggested earlier that there's possibly a law that we passed recently that government can also use in this attempt to bring about. This is a very, very complex matter. Stay with us. We'll return. We'll try and explore these other subjects. Still on PM Express, my guest in the studio, Ablakwa, he is a minority spokesperson, Foreign Affairs, ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Also with us in the studio is Adam Bona. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Security Warehouse Limited. Also in the studio, discussing this from a legal perspective, is Justice Sremsai, who is a lecturer with GIMPA. Just before we go to, so what do we do for the customers in the interim as we pursue number one? Before we go to the Ablakwa, we've talked about the mountain the government will have to climb. This committee, this delegation that is leaving shortly to Dubai. You say there's possibly a small window of opportunity for them to probably try and explore.
Yes, and I was pointing out on your show on radio earlier today that we could avert our minds to the Mutual Legal Assistance Act 2013, Act 807. Which 2010? Was, Act 2010, oh, yes, okay. It was passed in 2010, yeah. But it's Act 807, okay. That's the Act number. And if you look at the scope of application, it says it's an act to enable the Republic provide for the implementation of agreements or other arrangements for mutual legal assistance in respect of criminal matters and provide for related matters. So if you go through the provisions of this Act, we can have, and the country in question now, United Arab Emirates, at the appendix of the Act, we have 163 countries that have ratified the International Criminal Court's Convention, the Rome Statute of 17 July 1998. United Arab Emirates is listed as country number 153 out of the 163 countries listed. So I thought that with a little research, this could help government in proceeding forward to see how, because you see, the principle of reciprocity, which Justice Sremsai talks about, is very germane in international relations. Today, it's Ghana that needs your assistance. We are coming to you with this act that we have, if government decides that they want to use this, because we have to explore everything in our ass now. You don't know tomorrow. Tomorrow, United Arab Emirates might need us and might need us to also send to their country somebody they are looking for. So I think that we may have some small opportunity, some small window of opportunity to use.
Justice, is this something that could work?
Yeah, this could work to the extent that the Emirati government is interested in the principle of reciprocity. Because if we are coming to you with something like this, you need to understand that. But apart from that, I think if they don't regard it, then nothing could be done, because it's our act, not theirs. So they don't have any obligation to do what our act is saying. So it still goes back to the diplomacy and then the principle of reciprocity. Treat me as you want me to treat you. Now, talking of what we should do for this, but I think that is what matters.
Fundamentally.
Yeah, fundamentally, that is what we should be even discussing, not number one, whether it's coming or not. For me, government has insisted that this is purely private matter. As far as I'm concerned, as far as my understanding of public regulation, the theory and practice is concerned, I have no doubt in my mind that the government, the state institutions are responsible for what the people are going through. Let's not be deceived. Everyone has a job to do. The taxpayers' money, which goes to Bank of Ghana, Securities and Exchange Commission, and all these regulatory agencies, is not for them to just sit down and say, we will only regulate you if you have our license. It is also to what? Get people who are operating outside the licensing regime to come in. So you cannot justify your failure to bring them in by saying that, well, show us your license. If you don't have it, then go scot-free. Flowing from this, I am convinced beyond whatever that these people whose investments are going down the drain deserve government attention, be it in the form of compensation, whatever.
With whose money?
However you find the money.
That's a no way.
First,
let me tell you something.
That's a no-no.
You start from somewhere.
Yeah.
The first step you take is, what do we have? What is the asset here?
Yeah.
Let's trace the asset. You may even get more assets than the liability we have, and you pay them and even keep some.
We are running out of time.
Yeah, and we are running out of.
So giving him more than 4 months,
so
to empty his accounts, to
divest.
So we cannot begin by saying that we are not responsible and expect to solve the problem. Once you take responsibility, then you start chasing the asset. It is only when you have the asset and it's not enough, then we start talking about what? Taxpayers. And don't let us make it look strange that we cannot use taxpayers' money. I am not advocating for the use of taxpayers' money, but I'm saying that you cannot rule that out because even the resources that you use to chase the asset is taxpayers' money somehow. So, and this is not the first time in this world or in this country that things like this are happening, and this is not the first time any country is going to use taxpayers' money to compensate people who have suffered these things.
So for you, fundamentally, go after his property.
Yes, first,
now, and see what you can get from there, and then you can pursue the other things. Let me bring it very quickly in the next 30 seconds. What do you think for the customers now? For
the customers, I think as we speak, there is no DEX that is collecting data from any customer.
Okay.
There is no government institution.
That's going to be another thing.
No, I mean,
Menzgold. I get you. The Menzgold, they were not like a proper institution that they collect.
Exactly.
They were paying dividends.
They were paying dividend in cash. And so mine is that
they were paying cash. When they off the counter, they count the money for you. So they can't even tell.
So as we speak, who is a
Menzgold
customer and who is not a Menzgold?
It's going to be a challenge.
And so, whilst government is pursuing the angle of trying to pay, get him to pay the customers, government should set up a DEX immediately where customers, suspected customers or alleged customers can go, take down, begin to, give your information. They should, that would, at the moment, people are angry. Some have died.
So do something that
would calm people whilst you are trying to resolve the issue. But if we are waiting, they go to Dubai by tomorrow morning. If they left this evening, they will get there by tomorrow. They get there and we are told that because of the criminal nature of this issue, he can't come. We can't help. Are you now coming back to think about plan B?
And because government has said, some people are hopeful, and that's what you said. We should manage the expectations now because people are hopeful. If you come back and say we can't do anything about it, that could final thoughts on what should happen now in the 30 seconds because we just lots of time.
Full inquiry and government mindset ought to change. There's a public duty here. We cannot fold our arms and just say, is there greed, is there naivety? No. Then we have no business being in government. We must take responsibility. It happens everywhere. I mean, Barack Obama had no obligation to the U.S. auto industry. He bailed them out with billions of dollars, and it helped. Eventually, in the final analysis, it helped the U.S. economy. So there is responsibility. People in leadership must rise up to the occasion and carry out their responsibility.
I'm grateful. Samuel Kujita Ablakwa. Also, you had earlier Adams Mutawakilu and sorry, I said Adams Mutawakilu. Adams Bona is the chief executive of the National Security of the Security Warehouse Limited and Justice Ramsay. I'm grateful that they all joined us. But tomorrow we might hear something from a delegation that might have left already to Dubai. But we haven't heard the last of this yet. And if you're a customer, all the best in your endeavor to try and get this. Stay with us tomorrow. We might get something fresh for you on this matter and others. Enjoy the rest of your evening.